Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Lecture 04 on HTML5 lecture series at SNHU. I'm Tom Adamson, visiting professor, and this lecture will be on HTML5 goodies. And this is really a neat one because HTML5 has so many. It got tons and tons of really neat goodies, and that's what we're going to talk about. I have to take a sip. That's good. How's this for a hat? Just better? This is different from what I've been wearing, but still covers up the shiny part, right? How's the profile? Okay, profile better? Okay, let's talk about some of the goodies that HTML5 has. And I brought some extra magic markers, because remember last lecture we started running out of stuff. Okay, one of the neat goodies that HTML5 has, and you've probably heard about this, is the canvas, C-A-N-V-A-S. They call it the canvas element, but we haven't defined what an element is yet. So what we're going to do, until we define what an element is, we're going to call it the canvas goodie. And what the canvas goodie is, it appears on the web browser almost any way you want it to appear. And the reason why they call it the canvas is because you can do things on it. You can make boxes on it, you can make triangles on it, you can make any shape imaginable on the canvas element. And here's a little Pac-Man guy that you can make. So of course the artist loves it. There's the palette, you know, the artist palette, and there's the artist sitting there, and they're all happy because now they can do their magic, and they can paint on it if they want to on the canvas element. Anything you can think of, and of course they're sitting down, they're all comfortable, like this on their little artist chair. The animator can actually perform animations on the canvas element. So here's the animator right here, and he's all happy because he's got his strings up where he, you know, like a puppet, like a puppeteer. Are you with me? And he's got strings, and he says, "This is great for animations." And then that's what he's going to say. It's great for animations. And then we have the programmer. She's sitting down here working with the canvas element. Make it a lady programmer, because we do have lady programmers. And she's all happy because now what she can do, here she's sitting at her computer. There's her computer screen. She's up here. There's her hands on the keyboard. And she said, now what she's saying is that she can do dynamic, interactive, graphics. And so anyway, she says, wow, that's what they say. Programmers that can do dynamic, interactive graphics, they will generally use the word wow. And this is wow, what you can do with the canvas element. You're going to create graphics that are constantly moving and changing, what have you, like in games, game-intensive graphic, right there. Now, the thing is, you can do, this is what Flash did do without using Flash. And you can do even more. And there are no plugins. Absolutely none. It comes with the browser. It's called the Canvas element. I call it the Canvas goodie. It is the graphics designers dream come true. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the HTML5 Canvas element. It's really, really super cool. And we're going to be spending time in our lecture series as to how we use the Canvas element. And we'll take it through step by step. So you'll learn how to use it, you'll learn how to do images on it, you'll learn how to animate with it. We'll have a simple game that you can make using it. It's really cool. Excuse me while I have a sip here. Alright, now, however, there is another way of doing graphics in HTML5 besides the Canvas element. So you get two different ways. Okay, so I'm going to take this off now, the Canvas goodie. Okay. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just push a button and the whole thing erases, you know, in the digital age here? Okay, so that was that. The other thing that comes with HTML5 is this. SVG. You might say, what is SVG? SVG is scalable vector graphics. Now, scalable vector graphics have been around for a while. They're not a new thing. However, HTML5 now fully supports them. So what we're going to do is talk about what's so cool about scalable vector graphics. Well, we'll start over here and we'll put number 1. The first thing that's cool about them, about scalable vector graphics. They are created by code. They written in a fast loading text. In other words, scalable vector graphics are not GIFs, they're not bitmaps, they're not JPEGs or anything like that. And you know, you get a large GIF or a large JPEG, it takes a long time to download it. Scalable vector graphics are none of that. They're simply code, and the code is in fast-loading text. So when you load in a large scalable vector graphics, it comes, boom, it loads in pretty fast. Okay? Now, the other thing that's cool about that, about scalable vector graphics, is this, right here. Number 2 is they do not what? Lose any quality when scaled. This is what's really cool about scalable vector graphics. I can make the scalable vector graphic as big as I want, small as I want. It will not lose any quality at all. None. No quality, because it's all written in code. So the code knows, oh, it's getting bigger and stuff like that, that's fine. Not like a JPEG, not like a GIF, or any of those other bitmap images, because when I enlarge them, they start degenerating, but not with these guys. Okay. Now, with this, since it's written in code, therefore, since it's in code already, and I use code to animate, right? I use code to animate, so therefore anything about them can be animated. Now, just because that can be done with scalable vector graphics doesn't mean that scalable vector graphics are the best to use for animation. And the reason for that, we'll see, is because they're bitmap. So they're not necessarily the best for animation, even though any part of them can be animated. So since you can do something, that's cool, but it may not be the best thing to do. Like jumping off the top of the Empire State Building, you can do it, but we would recommend against it. So another cool thing about it, about SVG, is that it is, this is number 4, a W3C recommendation. And of course, since it is, we have to have a developer here looking at that and pointing out to us that this thing right here is very cool. Because obviously, if it's a W3C recommendation, developers will say, let's say developer, that's very cool. Okay? All right. The fifth thing that's cool about SVG, scalable vector graphics. Okay? Number 5, off my notes here, can be created with any text editor. What that means is I don't have to buy anything special to make scalable vector graphics and put them up on my website. All I need is a simple text editor, like Notepad, okay, or the equivalent in the Apple computer. And because it's just code written in text. That's all it is. That's all that gets up there. The other thing, since it's written in text, text, as you know, can be searched, indexed, scripted, and you know you can compress text, right? So this can be compressed without degrading it. I hope you can see that. It can also be compressed, you know, like you zip something, okay? The other cool thing about it is that, number 7, can be printed in the highest quality without without degradation, but let me put at any resolution. And you'll see that one of the best uses of SVG on the web, because of this, can be printed in the highest quality at any resolution. They're great for displaying maps, images of maps and what have you, because you can have very detailed maps now that are all written in text, that can be indexed and what have you, searchable, and then printed in the highest quality without at any resolution. And of course, coming along with that, we put number 8 here for SVG. They are totally zoomable. Of course, we have a person here with a large telescope, and he's peeking into this, got to put his nose up here. There he is down here, and he's looking at this through his large telescope. We got to put the telescope on a tripod because they usually sit on tripods. And when he sees that, they always say, wow. So that's it. That's part of it. That's part of it for scalable vector graphics. They are created by code written in a fast-loading text. They do not lose any quality when scaled. Anything about SVG can be animated, but it's not the best for animating, okay? Anything about it can be. And then it's a W3C recommendation, which of course is very cool. It can be created with any text editor, which means you don't need to buy anything special to create scalable vector graphics. Can be searched, indexed, scripted, and compressed. Can be printed in the highest quality at any resolution, and they are totally zoomable. I think they're neat scalable vector graphics, but I also think the Canvas goodie is neat too. What I want to do is I want to next, since we've talked about the Canvas goodie and the and scalable vector graphics, let's compare the two and see what the Canvas goodie or Canvas element, as formally called, is good for, and then compare that to scalable vector graphics and see what that's good for. So we have an idea of what we can use them, where we can use them. Okay, I'm going to erase this guy here. This. I'm going to watch the profile. Okay, all right, I'm with you. Okay, suck it in, Tom, suck it in. Okay, here we go. Got this here, here. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a table where I'm going to compare the Canvas and I'm going to compare it to scalable vector graphics. I will see on a point-by-point comparison what the strengths and weaknesses of the two are. This one right here, the Canvas is rendered in pixel by pixel. The Canvas, anything you put on a Canvas element is resolution dependent. In other words, if you start blowing it up, it starts degrading. Okay? It has poor text rendering. You can display text on it, and you can make the text dynamic. You can animate the text, but the rendering of it is poor, and the text can start degrading. You can save images you make on it as PNG files or GIFs. It's great for graphics intensive games. And we'll show you how you can make a graphic intensive game during this lecture series. The reason why it's great, even though it's pixel by pixel, is because I can create the image on it, then I completely clean it, and then create an image again, that same image again with a slight difference in it. Let's say I want to make a person walking across the screen, so I can have, say, an image like this, an image like this, and an image like this, an image like this, an image like this, and repeat those images. So what I can do is that I can make it so that I have the first image, and then I completely erase it, and then put in the second image, and then you get the illusion that the person's walking across the screen, or shooting a gun, or what have you. Okay, so that's it for the Canvas. Now, let's look at SVG. SVG, as we know, is resolution R-E-S-O-L-U-T-I-O-N, independent. Okay, and the other thing is that it's good support for large rendering areas. However, it's slow rendering if complex. It is not suited for game applications. So as an HTML5 designer, I'm the person that's going to design this stuff. I have two tools that I can use, two kinds of goodies. I can use the canvas and or the SVG. I can use both of these on the same website. It doesn't make any difference. And then I can use this for what this is good for, and I can use this for what that's good for. And when the viewer sees the web page, they really can't tell whether I'm using SVG or Canvas, unless, of course, they look at the code. Then they could tell. All right. So what we see here is a comparison between the Canvas and the SVG. And the next thing we're going to talk about, right after I have a sip of coffee, are some of the other really cool goodies that come along with HTML5. Very good. Okay, let's move ahead here. See what else we got. Alrighty. The other goodies are V, I, D, E, that's an E and an O. Video! Da-da! Everybody loves video. That's what, and that's how you're watching this, with video, right? And you might say, wait a minute, man. I already see video on through the web page. That's how I'm watching this lecture. What's cool about that? Well, the thing is that now I can control my own video in my own web page. If you right-click on the video that you're watching now in YouTube, you right-click on it, you look down the bottom menu, it'll tell you the version of Flash that's been used. This is video without Flash, which means I get more control. I don't need to plug it. The other thing that goes along with it, since I have video, I also have special controls in HTML5 for, what do you think? A-U, D, I, for audio, video and audio. Another really cool thing. Okay, of course, we have to have a person down here looking at this. We have to impress people with this, and we're impressed this lady here. She's going to look at this, and she's going to go super duper cool. And it is super duper cool, and that's what people will say when they see how this works. So, until now, there has not been any W3C standard for video. And what we did mostly mostly use a Flash plugin. And as good and faithful and loyal as Flash has been to us, it was limited on what it could do. You'll see that with this new video audio standard, there's a lot more that you can do with your videos than you were able to do under the old system that used just that. So let's see. Going back to my notes here. The next thing is, whoops, of course pages always stick together. Yes. Okay. Here's an idea of if I can control my own videos in my browser without having to upload them to YouTube. Because understand, YouTube is a great service, man. I mean, it really is. Look what we're able to do right now. So let's say I wanted more control over what my videos were doing. So here I am. This is a client now, and they're looking at their big screen TV, and they're looking through a browser. Okay, and what they're doing is they're looking at a rocket ship. Okay. This is a video of a rocket ship. Put a little window here, like that, and it's going. These are stars in the sky. Okay, it's going like rocket ships go. Should have a wing on this side here, right? And then maybe a little cabin. Okay, guys looking out of it, and there's maybe there's a couple more stars here. And so, and this is sitting on the table, right? Okay, there it is. Well, we got to put legs on the table, right? Yeah, right here. And then there's a guy right here, and he's sitting watching his big screen TV, and this is a video in a browser. And the browser has HTML5, which is controlling the video, okay? It's not a standard video it's controlling. It's a video that's really controlled by code. And so he's sitting here with his little controller here, and he's on his nice chair. Here's his nice chair here, sitting here. And he's saying, I can now completely control my own video through a browser without the limitations or issues of a plugin. You recall with Flash, when you put it as plugin on the browser, historically there were some issues with security, with bugs and what have you. I mean, Flash did their darndest to work those things out, but that was always an issue with a lot of people. Anyway, that's what he's saying here. Okay, and then of course over here there's the programmer, and here she is. Okay, and she's programming away, and she's happy too in using this video goodie, video/audio, and she's programming away here, and she's here's her computer, okay, like there, on there, and then of course she's doing her thing here, and she says, and so can I. In other words, she can now program it to do almost any kind of thing, keep track of almost any kind of thing that through code that people were not able to do before with videos through a web browser. Just to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do with video in HTML5 as well as audio in HTML5. I'm going to make a listing of some of them. Now, we're going to cover the details of how you do this in future lectures. But for now, let me just give you some overview of what you can do with these goodies, the video and the audio. Of course, they call them elements, but since we haven't defined what an element is yet, we're going to refer to them as goodies. Right? So let's see some of the things you can do. I just happen to make a random list. This is just a few of the video, and of course we're talking about HTML5, audio controls that are built into, controls that are built into a HTML5 compliant browser, like say Google Chrome. First of all, you can have autoplay. You can have a controller. The person's using a controller, you know, like a game controller. You can have current time, so that the video will only play at a certain time you're choosing. You can have, of course, muted, and you can have unmuted. You can have duration. So before the video is even played, the browser knows what the duration is going to be. You can have whether or not the video is ended, and then have something happen when it does. If there's an error, you can have an error message printed. You can loop the video. In other words, once it's finished, you come back and play it. You can do a playback. Not only that, you can play back portions of it. You can do a paused, of course. You can do a rewind. You can do the equivalent of a fast forward. You can do a ready state, whether or not it's ready to be played. You can do seeking. Like, for example, on seeking in the video. You can have certain parts, like this lecture series. You can have certain parts of this video tagged. Like, let's say you wanted to search, well, this video, say, lasts for 30 minutes. You don't want to go through the whole 30 minutes to find out some key point. You can have the key points tagged and then make a listing on the side of the video of these key points. You click on the key point, bang, it goes right to that section of the video. It's like an interactive glossary, if you will, for a lecture. Of course, you can have volume. And the list goes on. There's all kinds of things that you can control with this. And this is controlled with code written with text in a simple text editor. You don't need anything fancy. You don't have to buy anything in order to start making code, in order to start developing websites that use HTML5, the audio and the video elements for all these controls. You just type them in and say what you want to do, and it's a done deal. And in this lecture series, as I said before, we'll show you how to do that. Okay, so let's see where we are here. Well, I'm starting to run out of coffee, and since I am, I'm going to need to sort of wrap this up, but let's say something what we still need to cover. As a matter of fact, for HTML goodies, I'm going to call this lecture HTML Goodies Part 1. Because it's going to take more than one part to cover all the goodies that come with HTML5. All the goodies that we're going to be covering in this lecture series on how to do them. So, we have only covered We've covered the canvas element. We're going to call it Canvas Goodie. We have covered scalable vector graphics, and we have covered the video and audio. We haven't shown you how to do them yet because we'll have lectures on each one of these. Here's what we still need to cover. For HTML5 goodies. Might need a part 2 and a part 3. We need to cover drag and drop. That's a standard now. We need to cover geolocation. Geolocation is really cool because through the browser you can make your own locator. As a matter of fact, you can make it so that with a user's permission, you can find the exact location of where the user is on their computer. I mean, this is powerful. Where do you see the lecture on that? We haven't done the lecture yet, but where do you see it? The other thing is web storage. Web storage right on the client. You might say, wait a minute, that's a cookie. No, I'm not talking about cookies. I'm talking about you can store on the client computer a full SQL database. Now, for those that don't know what SQL is, structured query language, what that database is, this means you can store on the client's computer a fully searchable, indexable database, just like you have up on a server. Okay, so let's say the client's playing a game and you want to keep track of what the client's doing. Well, now, with the client's permission, you can store all this information right on the client. That's fantastic. And then, of course, this right here is CSS3. This is a biggie. You might say, what's CSS3? What's CSS? CSS is cascading style sheets. And you might say, okay, so what does that mean? Cascading style sheets allow us to bring really nice artwork to the browser. Make things look pretty, make things look unique and what have you. CSS3 goes a step further. It allows us to animate how pretty the web page looks. I can animate the background colors. I can animate the background image with CSS3. I can animate almost any part of that web document using CSS3. We'll have a whole lecture series on what is CSS3. You will be amazed, awed, and inspired when you see what you can do with CSS3. The other thing, you won't believe this. You have 3D integrated graphics. Now you might say, is that part of the specification? No, but it's a goodie that comes with it. What it is called WebGL. And we're going to have a series of lectures on what WebGL is and how you can integrate that. And again, this is all free. What WebGL does, this allows the browser to go directly to my GPU. Not CPU, GPU, my graphical processing unit, which many times contains several microprocessors and is a lot more powerful than my CPU. So what I can do now, I can do what high-end computer games are able to do, but I can do it through a browser without a plugin. I can now make it so that the web page can go directly to the graphical processing unit and bring me the same quality games, visually speaking, that I get when I download and install one now. But I do it through a browser. We'll show you how to do that in this series. That's amazing. There's other kinds of things that we have. We have libraries. And one of the libraries, a library is a bunch of code that helps me do stuff. And one of the really cool libraries is called Three, T-H-R-E-E-J-S. This library is free. It was developed by MIT, and it's totally for 3D interactive dynamic graphics. 3D you'll find it amazing. Okay, we talked about here the code that's used. There is one programming language and I say one, I emphasize, used for everything. And I mean everything in HTML5 and associated goodies. Only one. And so this is the programming language to learn. This is the one to learn. This is the future. And it is JavaScript. This is not Java. Java is an object-oriented programming language developed by Sun Microsystems. JavaScript is totally open source, totally free, easy to use, and is nowadays the most widely used programming language in the world. Don't take my word for it. Go research it on the internet. That's the truth. Very few places teach JavaScript. A lot of places teach Java. I'll tell you, don't waste your time. You want to get into HTML5, you learn JavaScript. You watch the series of lectures that we're going to have on JavaScript, you become an expert at it, and it will now control all the stuff that we've been talking about in this whole lecture series. Okay, that's it for this lecture. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching.